pre-PA basics, that it is a journey. It is not necessary to do everything all at once and to stress out super fast. And patient care hours. And then volunteering also shows a side of leadership. You can be absolutely any major. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Peyton, and today's video is actually something I have never focused on or filmed for my channel, but for 2021 I want to kind of put out more content regarding pre-PA stuff. So for those of you who don't know, I am a pre-PA student. I'm currently a senior at Michigan State University, so this year is kind of a big year for me because I will be applying this summer and taking a gap year, and then during my gap year hopefully getting like interview offers and school offers. So I just feel like PA content is going to be very much alive in my life for 2021, so I figured it was a good time to kind of put out some of that stuff on my channel. So as you guys can tell, this video is going to be like pre-PA basics. In all honesty, this is probably geared more towards like freshmen and sophomores in college, maybe like even seniors in high school if you like really know what you want to do. But it's like the basic foundational, is that a word? Like it's the foundations to everything you should kind of know as you go through your undergrad career. So yeah, I basically have 5 things that I'm going to kind of talk to you guys through. I wish I had seen this video when I was a freshman or sophomore, because pre-PA and figuring out like what schools you want to go to and like the pre-reqs, the patient care hours, and all of that can be really overwhelming when you are young and starting out in college. But it's also one of those careers that you kind of need to prepare for to get into grad school. You can't just not think about it during your undergrad because there's quite a few things that you have to get done and check off. So that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm really excited. So if you guys are interested in PA stuff, be sure you guys like this video and subscribe to my channel. The first thing we're going to talk about is what major you should choose. As a freshman and a sophomore, I was so confused and overwhelmed because the truth is you can be absolutely any major. You do not need to be a strictly science major. You could literally be an English major. You could be like a history major. Anything that interests you is kind of what I suggest. It is important, and we're going to talk about prereqs in a few minutes, but it is important to make sure your major has some flexibility to throw in some science classes and some other prereqs that you're going to need to apply to PA school, which we'll go over in a second. But when you're just sitting down as a freshman, it's really okay to choose any major that you want. Don't stress out about that too much, and also you can change your major as you go through undergrad. But I'm a psych major. That is super, I mean, not super rare, but like it's definitely like most people I would say are like human bio, kinesiology, like neuroscience, but I love psychology, so I really wanted to major as that, which is really awesome because I get a sense of like some classes that I'm super just genuinely interested in, as well as my prereqs for science classes, because psych majors have a lot of flexibility, and honestly any major is acceptable. I think it's really cool too, like if you're an English major, like that's really cool. You've learned a lot of stuff that will make you more of an interesting and diverse person. You have all of PA school to take science classes, so if you want to kind of dabble in something else during your undergrad, that is perfectly fine as long as you can fit your prereqs in. Also, I think, for example, with like a major like psych, in the scheme of things, it's not as rigorous as a human bio major or like a major that has more science classes. So I have kind of tried to show my work ethic through my extracurriculars, which we'll talk about in a second, volunteering, working, leadership, that kind of thing. When you are applying to PA school, they like to know that you can handle a large workload. So just keep that in mind. So number 2, let's talk about prereqs. This is probably one of the more frustrating aspects of being a pre-PA student, because every PA school has a different set of prerequisites. So prerequisites, I really struggle to say that word sometimes, are a list of classes that you have to get done in order to apply to PA school. So this is overwhelming sometimes as a freshman or sophomore because you have no idea what PA schools you want to apply to, and that is totally okay. So basically what I did is I got a feel for some general, pretty common prereqs that are required required, and these include like general chem, biology, organic chemistry, biochemistry, some like basic psych classes, like a stats class. So those are pretty common. So what I did as a freshman is I knocked chem out of the way, just general chemistry. Like I had like a writing class, and some of PA schools require a writing class. Don't stress about that too much. I would just try to take one of those classes kind of in your freshman or sophomore year, and then what you'll do, I would say around your end of sophomore year, you should kind of start looking more specifically into the prereqs of schools you want to go to, and then you can kind of plan out your schedule for until you're a senior to make sure you hit all of those prereqs, because there's nothing worse than graduating and realizing you didn't hit a specific prerequisite. Oh, I also forgot, anatomy is a huge one. Anatomy and physiology. So I kind of took chem. I got AP credit for bio, which that's another thing. You need to look at all your schools and make sure they accept AP credit, because most of them don't. But in my case, it's okay right now because I had to take higher level biology, such as microbiology, which you guys might as well. So I took like general chem my freshman year, organic chemistry my sophomore year, as well as microbiology. Junior year, I took biochem and anatomy. No, anatomy was sophomore year. So junior year was biochem and physio. And then this past semester, I took genetics. And along the way, I've sprinkled some other prereqs in there. Like I had to take a medical terminology class. I had to take like a basic psych class. But yeah, so that's kind of how I did it. Everybody does it differently. And talk to your advisor if you can find like a pre-health advisor at your school. They might know a little bit more about what PA schools require, and you can kind of plan your schedule from there. And it's important to remember for these prereqs, a lot of schools will take a cumulative GPA of the prereqs that they decide. So these prereqs are very important because they will look at that GPA as well as your overall GPA with all the other classes you had to take. So it's very important to aim for a pretty high GPA in those tough science classes. So I would try to put as much energy as you can in them. Of course, it's not possible to 4-point everything, but if you can aim for as high as you can for each of those classes, you'll be better off with your overall cumulative like prerequisite GPA. Okay, number 3, this is a huge one, patient care hours. So this is kind of a way in which PA school and med school differ. So for med school, you don't always need to get patient care hours, but for most PA schools, they require about, I would say on average, 1,000 hours of patient care hours. So what are patient care hours? They are when you're working directly with patients, like taking vitals, taking care of them. It kind of like depends on the job that you have, but I would say CNA is very common. So that's a certified nursing assistant. That's usually in like nursing homes, assisted living homes, that kind of thing. And then medical assistants are very common, which is like working in a medical practice, and you kind of like are working directly with a physician, which is really nice. I know like some people who work in like physical therapy offices. Another huge one is like being an EMT, but that takes certification and training, which I didn't have time to do. So I worked as a CNA, and I actually just started a medical assistant job. I honestly didn't even start this till after my sophomore year. So totally okay if you haven't figured this out yet at all by freshman or sophomore year. Keep in mind some places do require certification. So I did get CNA certified, which was like a 6-week program. I actually didn't get medical assistant certified, but my office actually doesn't require that certification. So just plan ahead and look into the offices that you want to apply to and plan accordingly. But that's a huge thing that you should do before applying to PA school. It's kind of hard because if you decide you want to be a PA pretty last minute, you kind of got to cram these hours in. So starting as early as you can is great. Working the summers, maybe going like contingent during the school year is completely a good option. Another thing is variety is kind of a plus. So if you can like maybe get a CNA job, for example, like your sophomore and junior year, and then maybe transition into working a hospital once you have more experience, I think that's really cool because they kind of like to see that you have gotten experience in different areas, because that just honestly proof that you've learned more about the medical field and you have a variety of knowledge. So that's something to keep in mind. Definitely not necessary. I've just been advised to do that as I've been going through undergrad. Okay, so number 4 is kind of a big jumble-y of things, and it's basically extracurriculars as well as like volunteering and shadowing. This is pretty huge. So you can get a good GPA, you can get those patient care hours, but what really makes you stand out is kind of like who you are as a person, and you can really demonstrate that through your extracurriculars. So this includes different clubs you are in school, maybe different sports you play if you're an athlete, if you joined a sorority, who you volunteer for. So starting with extracurriculars, I think it's really important if you are on a sports team or like in an organization through your school to show leadership through that. So for example, for me, I am on the e-board of 2 clubs that I'm really passionate about. Because of that, I've kind of had like an elevated experience with those clubs because I'm more involved with them. So if you do that, you can have more to talk about in your interviews. That's one way to do it out of many. Another way, like I said, if you're like the captain of a sports team or like took initiative in one of your clubs in some sort of way, I think that's really important. And then volunteering also shows a side of leadership. You don't have to volunteer in a medical setting at all. You can if that's like what you're passionate about, but for me, when I was little, I always wanted to be a teacher, so I actually volunteer through an organization that mentors elementary students. This is just kind of like showing another side of me that makes me unique and different. You don't have to be like a robot who only loves medical things and working in the medical field. Use your undergrad to explore other things. Like I said, it makes you unique and interesting. So if you could find volunteer opportunities and something you're just genuinely passionate about, that's a really good opportunity for you. With all of this, I guess I should have said this before, but with patient care hours and volunteering, be sure you are tracking that. That's a mistake that I made. Once you start volunteering, make it like a spreadsheet or an Excel sheet and track your hours, because that is going to be necessary to put into your application once you are applying later on. And then kind of along with the extracurricular side of things are shadow hours. So shadowing, honestly, in my experience, has been kind of not a high priority because I lived through a pandemic and that was kind of the year I was going to get my shadowing hours. So while they like don't say like get X amount of shadowing hours, it definitely shows that you have put time and thought into becoming a PA. So if you know a PA, it can even be a physician like in a specialty that you're passionate about, I would start getting some shadowing hours in and also make sure you are tracking those. Again, not like that shouldn't be your top priority, but if you have time maybe in the summers to do like an every other week type thing, I think that's a really good idea and something you could consider. Definitely would not hurt at all to get some shadowing hours in. Okay, so the last thing that you guys should know about is the GRE. So the GRE is required for, I've been doing my research on my schools. I would say like 2/3 of the schools that I'm going to apply to requires the GRE. From what I have heard in like my pre-PA club and everything like that, the GRE is really just, you have to get like a certain score, and if you get that, then you're good. It's not really used as like a competitive criteria among the PA schools. They don't, at least from what I've heard, they don't sit there and like look at who got the better GRE score. There's other things that are much more important. In my days, I haven't heard people harp on studying for the GRE or spending too much time on that, but it is important to know that you do have to take it for most schools, and it is important to get a decently good grade. You can research the average GRE grades among the schools you're applying to and kind of get a idea of the benchmark you should hit for each section. So the GRE is something you want to take maybe more towards your junior or senior year, depending on if you're taking a gap year or not. I would say those are the 5 huge factors you should know about if you are like a freshman or sophomore kind of starting on your pre-PA journey. While there are other things that factor into your pre-PA journey, like I said, these are just things that I thought were really important and were kind of confusing to just kind of figure out. So I hope this video gave you guys some guidance. If you guys ever have any questions, you can shoot me a DM on my Instagram, comment down below, really anything you guys want. Through my like undergrad career, I've had the opportunity to kind of like mentor pre-PA students, so I really love doing this because, like I said, I was so lost as a freshman and sophomore. So again, I just hope this helped you guys kind of figure things out a little bit and narrow things down. Just remember that it is a journey. It is not necessary to do everything all at once and to stress out super fast and super quickly. I know that's easy to do. And then also remember that comparison is not going to get you to where you want to be. It's good to be your own individual person and to have kind of your own niche and like thing, because that'll make you more interesting during the PA school interviews. So yeah, maybe one day once I get a little bit more of a feel for the application and interview process, I can kind of go through that in a different video, but just kept it kind of short and simple for this one, and I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in my next video.